Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fairy Tale, and this one is going to be story time with Ursa's mom. So let's get started. So I was already kind of expecting this to be a very story and exposition based episode, but what was actually really cool was I didn't realize how much of this episode was actually going to reveal things. I feel like as we're coming up to the end of the season, we're having a lot of things revealed to us that have been questions throughout the series. So let's get into some of these things, including the history of, well, Fiore and what it used to be in terms of its interaction with dragons. So we see that there actually used to be an ancient civilization where Irene lived that was actually just straight up coexisting with dragons. And we have, of course, this whole idea from previous episodes and previous seasons that we have sort of this conflict with dragons. They were always dangerous. Acnologia obviously being the most dangerous of all the dragons, who we see a bit of in this season or in this episode, but I didn't realize how reliant these people were on dragons, to the point where there was literally a city designed with humans and dragons coexisting. But that also sparked a war. And during this war is where we kind of see Irene take and begin using her enchantment magic that we've seen throughout this season during her fights and battles with other people. And, well, really, her just enchanting the world and stuff. So we get to see this kind of beginning of her enchantment abilities. She's, at this point, by the way, the queen of dragons, and so that's sort of an interesting fall from grace in a way that we get to see through this entire episode due to her own desperation to help win this war. Now, this enchantment magic is actually very impressive and very useful for a lot of reasons, because she can basically imbue these abilities to other things. And she uses this knowledge because they begin to lose the war. Apparently, more dragons from the west who wanted to eat humans and destroy all humanity, they were vastly, like, their side, the dragon side with Irene, was vastly outnumbered by the side from the west who wanted to destroy all of humanity. So there were kind of desperate measures that needed to be taken, because otherwise they would lose, and that'd be the end of it. They would lose, and it was done. So Irene's idea was to imbue dragon abilities into a human. And this is where we find out the creation of the Dragon Slayers. And Wendy was particularly impressed, or not impressed, but kind of shocked by this. And yeah, Irene is the mother of all Dragon Slayers. That includes Natsu, Rogue, Sting, Gagio, Wendy. We even see Cobra, and it's just insane. Loxus as well. So this Dragon Slayer magic is just like that's where it started. There you go. She was technically the first dragon slayer, but there were some drawbacks. Now, of course, we learned in the Tartarus arc that the dragons of each of our mainstay dragon slayers were inside of them, and so because they stayed inside and worked to keep our dragon slayers from becoming dragons, everything was fine, and they're not going to become dragons because of this. But that was not a thing when this initial dragon slayer magic was created. So there were apparently hundreds of dragon slayers who turned the tides of the war and were able to win. But as a result, they became dragons. They lost their minds. It was not a good time. And we learned that part of what causes these people to become dragons is a dragon seed that grows inside of them. And I have a theory on that after knowing now what that seed is. What I thought was a little baggy of something, but it actually is a seed. Knowing what that is now, I have a theory about what we're seeing at the end, but I'm going to kind of hold off on that and finish this up before that. But we see that with Irene also being one of the dragon slayers, she begins to become a dragon. We see a crack form on her face, and she's got scales. We also learn about the fact that she is carrying Erza at this point. And she kind of talks about her father, or Urza's father, and we discover that he was a general, and their marriage was primarily for political reasons, to dispute, or to overcome border disputes. But after she starts to become a dragon, this is Keep in mind, after Acnologia has risen up. So because Acnologia rose up and he was able to become a dragon, but his ability can hop back and forth between dragon to human, but because of his sheer strength and ability in becoming a dragon, everybody fears the dragon slayers who begin to change into dragons, and as a result, we kind of have a less than favorable outcome for Irene. She's imprisoned by her husband because he no longer wants to. He's like, I will never father a child with a monster like you. The fear is very clearly an overwhelming, just it's an overwhelming hysteria that's taken over everybody after Acnologia rose up, because now the dragon slayers, at least in this era, are seen as evil because they would all lose their minds. They would either lose their minds or become dragons. Agnologia is a clear example of like the worst case scenario. So everybody who happens to begin to fall into this category is just feared, captured, tortured, dehumanized. It's not good. We find out that this dehumanization and beatings and all the torture has been going on for 3 years, because while this is happening, Irene is of course still pregnant with Erza, but she cast a spell on Erza so that she wouldn't grow. So that way she wasn't born into this hell of a prison. And it's done in a way, because of how long it takes. Her former husband doesn't believe her and goes to cut her open to prove it. That was kind of the catalyst, and I was wondering where that scar came from. That was where it came from. He goes to strike her, and we find out because of him attacking her, that's where the scar came from, but then she also fully became a dragon, so don't mess with Mama Dragon. She will stomp on you. You monster! And so this is where Irene fully becomes a dragon and takes off, destroying at least the prison area that she was in, but I'm assuming a lot of the area around her. And she just escapes and wants to become a human again, but she spends centuries carrying Erza and being in dragon form, to the point where all she wants to do is be human again, but she spends centuries, which is part of why Ursa was born in the era she was because of how long Irene had cast that spell on her to keep her from actually being born in the time that she should have been born. So Ursa should have been born in the same era as Natsu and Wendy and Gajil and all the others who we know have now time traveled. That was way back 400 years ago. That was, of course, where Erza should have been born, which is kind of cool to think that, like, the only person so far that doesn't have any connections back that far in our main little group of Erza, Lucy, Happy, Natsu, and Gray. Gray's the only one who doesn't have any connections to 400 years in the past. He's the most vanilla of all of our characters, because all of his stuff happened within the era that they are currently living, whereas Erza was conceived in the 400 years in the past. Wendy and Lucy. Wendy was actually alive 400 years in the past. Lucy had ancestors 400 years in the past, and Natsu has so many ties to the 400 year back there that it's not even funny. Anyway, I digress. Irene then comes across Zeref, who sees that she's actually not a dragon, she's a human who's in dragon form, and changes her back into her human form, but it is only a disguise. It is only a look. So she is actually not human. She is still dragon. He even says, you will never be human. And as a result of her not being human, she can't taste anything. It appears as though she cannot sleep. And for some reason, she's very itchy and I don't know if her senses are cranked up or if she still has the senses of a dragon, or she feels everything and tastes everything like a dragon, but yeah, she can't taste anything. Apparently she can't sleep and everything itches. So she's just kind of going mad. And to even more drive home the fact that she's going mad, she of course recalls that she is carrying a human child. And she gets the bright idea, which fails, thank God it fails, but she gets the bright idea to try to imbue herself or I guess enchant herself into this human child to start over again. It doesn't work, but that was her kind of plan, was to become one with Erza, or rather take Erza's body so that she could be human. And when that didn't work, she just threw Erza away. She didn't care where. Of course, Erza remembers the town she lived in, all the suffering she went through, and it's actually better off that Erza ended up where she ended up, because she was she went through hell, unfortunately, but she was able to find her true family and become the strongest fairy tale female warrior, period. Like, it's awesome where Urza came from, especially considering how crap her mom is. Let's be frank. Which is unfortunate because the original idea, or reason rather, for Irene to keep Urza from being born was to keep her from being born into hell. But after Irene had gone through hell herself and kind of lost her mind over the centuries of being a dragon and then being human again, but not actually being human and all that stuff, like, the original reasons for Urza sticking around and not being born when she was turned into a much worse reason for her being born, but it turned out to be okay in the end, which is good. I really, really do like the fact that they're kind of showing us, like, revealing these things to us as we watch it as viewers, because there are questions that have been around for so long, like never getting to meet any of our main characters' parents. We've now met Gray's dad. We, of course, had Lucy's parents, but they died. We now have Urza's parents, who we know about. We know, obviously, who Natsu's parents were. Like, everything's slowly getting revealed as we watch this final season. So I feel like they're wrapping things up in a way that we get to see these clear ties being ended. Like, we've now got these nice little bows at the end of all the loose strings. So I really hope that continues, because I really do like that about this sort of where this season is going. I said earlier about the dragon seed. We actually see the dragon seed in the end of this season, in the end of the ending of these episodes. And I wasn't sure what it was. Now that I know that it's a dragon seed, my only guess about what the other thing is it's another kind of seed. And since it has the Spriggan 12 logo on it, I'm guessing that it has something to do with Zeref, possibly like Natsu's END form or something like that. So, like, I don't know, an Aetherius seed? I don't know if that doesn't have a good ring to it, but possibly, like, I think that might be an Aetherius seed. The two seeds might be in reference to Natsu, because we have, of course, the fairy tale, sort of a fairy tale emblem on the dragon seed, and then a Spriggan logo on the other one. So I'm guessing that those have ties to the two affiliations right now that Natsu has, which is the fact that he's a dragon slayer for fairy tale, but he's also one of the demons, the demon of the Book of END. So I'm curious to see if I'm right on that, because it seems like that's kind of where things are going. But that's my theory on what I think those are. Either way, this was actually a really good episode. We do get a bit of Natsu, like Natsu's whole beautiful mind inside of his mind deal, but at this point, like, especially when Wendy's like, we're almost to the end as we guide you through your memories, like, if I was, like, being told several times by parts of my memory that I was going to die, and then somebody told me, oh, we're almost to the end, I wouldn't follow, because that would mean that I would just go to my death. Not really about that life. So we have, of course, whatever's going to be happening with Natsu. I want to know what's happening with Natsu, because right now he's basically just passed out with Lucy laying on him naked and Happy laying next to him, who Happy's already always naked anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I want to know what's going to happen next, because, oh boy, that's not good for Natsu. And we learned so much this episode. Like, I was almost not expecting a fight, so I wasn't really disappointed that we didn't get a fight. But man, next episode is going to be awesome, because we are going to have one hell of a fight between Erza and her mom. And I can't wait. And I hope you guys are excited as I am for next episode. Either way, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. You can check out the links down in the description. I have a ton of stuff going on that you guys can check out. You can send me stuff. You can buy my merch. You can subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff. Apart from that, though, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know that I did, and I hope you guys are as excited as I am for next episode, assuming you haven't watched it already in the sub. There's always that. But either way, guys, make sure to like and subscribe, hit the like button, comment, and I will see you all in the next video. Make sure to be there, and have a good one.